welcome, Ricardo, to the World Hard Enduro podcast. I do wish we were meeting on happier and more positive terms, but it is wonderful that you're taking the time to speak to me today.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. And yeah, no, it's not the happiest moment for Hard Enduro right now, but happy to speak with you about the past months.
Yeah. So just so that our listeners can kind of know who you are, would you mind introducing yourself and kind of what your role is at WESS?
Yeah, so I'm Ricardo Mitterer. I mean, for those who visited our races have for sure seen me around there. I was the series manager of the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship, and I was taking care of everything that had to be done with the races, with the race organizers, FIM, riders. Like when we were looking for new races, I went there to check it out. When we had a new race on the calendar, working with them, okay, what had to be done to get it up to standard? Where do we need to improve? Those things. In winter time, I was working on regulations with the FIM and manufacturers. And this was how it started. And after the first season, I also got into timekeeping. So yeah, the last 2 seasons, I was also doing the timekeeping on most of the events. Yeah.
So you're quite a central person to the whole championship, really. You kind of have your fingers in all of the different aspects and you understand pretty well kind of how everything works.
Yeah, I would say I was trying to make everyone happy as best as I could.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that was quite a challenging job, to be fair.
It was quite a job in the last year. Yeah.
So, in this conversation and like this chat that we're going to have, I really just want to understand kind of for myself, but I guess also for our community, a little bit more about like hard enduro and just kind of where we've come from, where we're at now, and kind of what the future holds. I would say that hard enduro seems to be a topic where everything kind of happens behind closed doors, you know, everything, all the discussions that are had, decisions that are made. I feel like I don't really understand a lot of the things, or at least a lot of information is not really shared. So really my goal for this talk is just to have a better understanding of just the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that you had the feeling that most of the things were going behind closed doors, but yeah, I'm happy to answer some questions. Yeah.
Fantastic. So the WESS series was kind of running before the championship, right? Like it didn't just jump into a championship. How did that kind of transition? Like how did we go from the WESS series into the Hard Enduro World Championship?
So basically how that happened was Hard Enduro there were several events around the planet who started doing more extreme enduros, and there have been like attempts to put those races under one umbrella, to have a series, to create that before, but unfortunately that was not successful. And then in 2017, Winnie Kerschagel and his team had the idea to create the WESS series, the World Enduro Super Series. And the goal of that series was to find the ultimate enduro rider, the one who was good at everything, you know, who was good at the extreme races, but he could also be good in classic enduros, who could do beach races, and this was WESS. So a huge variety in between those events. And this series has been pretty successful, and it was so successful that the FIM approached WESS, the promoter, if they wanted to become a world championship, an official FIM world championship. And then Winnie agreed on that, and the team, and this is how it became a world championship. And I think it was planned to become already a World Championship back in 2020, but then COVID came, and then everything started in 2021. Yeah.
I see. So
Yes, indeed.
actually,
FIM Hard Enduro World Championship. Yeah.
okay, so FIM approached WESS with, the idea to kind of bring it into the World Championship.
Yeah, this is as far as I know it. I mean, back then I wasn't on the team, so I joined them when they were already in FIM World Championship. So, but I think this is how it was. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And speaking about FIM, what is their role in the championship? I mean, you kind of already had a series, you kind of already had a calendar, like races, you kind of already had a setup. So what was FIM's role in the championship?
So the FIM's role in any motorcycle championship is to provide the framework of rules and regulations and standards for a world championship, and this is what they provide, and this is what they are working on, and this is what they brought to hard enduro, and this is why also WESS changed from this variety of enduro race types to specifically hard enduro. But still, hard enduro was still is still a huge variety in the events if you look if you look into the past seasons. So yeah, and the FIM provides, they have their sporting code, they have their technical regulations, they have their environmental rules, medical rules. And this framework ensures that those events and those championships are run under those circumstances.
I see.
This is
That
basically what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So my understanding is that, when FIM becomes involved, it kind of creates a reputable championship with, the structure, the rules and regulations. It kind of makes your calendar and what you're doing official, right? And with that, I can assume, as you said, there's a lot of now rules and regulations and a lot of things that I guess events and riders have to kind of conform to, like their system. Yeah. I'm curious to know, because obviously I know that if riders want to race in like the FIM championship, they have to have, like, for example, an FIM license, right? Did having FIM kind of increase the costs of having like these events? I mean, I can imagine that it kind of would make things a little bit more stricter and maybe a bit more complicated having to follow all those rules, but did it make it more expensive to kind of have to adapt to that?
If you're speaking about FIM license, the FIM license is, if you have a national one or an international one or world championship license, it's basically an accident insurance.
Yeah.
Which you're paying for, and the FIM doesn't let you race without it.
For sure. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that.
Which I completely understand.
Yeah.
For organizers and implementing all those rules and regulations is linked to costs, to additional costs. Also, the FIM is sending 6 to 8 people to every race who build the FIM jury, and so they are taking all decisions which are race related, be it violation of rules or technical regulations or environmental regulations, or even they are involved in the medical plan with their chief medical officer. So those are costs, because those are additional people who have to go to all those events. I mean, they split it up between national and international, but yeah, it increased costs for the organizer and for us as a promoter as well. Yeah. Okay,
I see. Because I mean, obviously, being kind of in the industry, like we hear rumbles of like there's being like costs, involved, but like I didn't really understand it. So thank you for explaining that, because it kind of helps me understand it a little bit better.
you have more people there, so all of them, I mean, they don't work for free, so it's all of them need a hotel room, all of them need a flight ticket. Yeah, they are on location 1 or 2 days earlier, they stay 1 day longer, so they are working before the race starts in the morning until way after it finishes in the night. So yeah, this is for sure, this increased the costs.
Yeah, for sure. I completely understand that. So let's talk about 2025. And this year, obviously, we know that it's very unfortunate that WESS will not be able to, hold the 2025 championship, and that is disappointing. But the main reason was because of, the lack of financial support for, the championship, and, one of your key investors kind of pulling out. I'm curious to know, there's obviously been a lot of controversy around like different manufacturers and investors in the championship and like the role that they played. I'm curious to know, like, how much influence did the manufacturers have inside the the championship, and like how much could they contribute? And I'm not just speaking about obviously your main investor, but just generally, like, what kind of involvement did the manufacturers have inside the championship?
Yeah, I mean, the manufacturers, they were involved in rule making. We contacted them like before every season. What is your feedback? What are your wishes for next year? I mean, not all of them can become true. This has to be said, and yeah, I mean, this was basically the influence they had on the series, and I mean, if they were unhappy with something, they also came to us during the season and said, okay, guys, you announced just a calendar and it's too much of a travel cost, we need to do something about it. Then we tried to solve this issue. Yeah, so I mean, we were connected with all of them, and whoever wanted to have a talk with us, we had an open ear. Yeah.
So you're saying that basically you opened up the conversation to all manufacturers and whoever was willing to reach out.
No one of them was preferred. So
yeah,
to be absolutely clear. So everyone who wanted to speak with us could speak with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I get it. And like, yeah, obviously, with one manufacturer being a big financial influence, I guess, on the championship, there's always obviously that question of like, oh, did they have more influence? Were decisions made according to make them happier, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're trying to say, but I want to say that this is exactly why we had the FIM. So they were the body which took care of all those rules, all those regulations, and who had the saying on if something was correct or if something was not correct. So it was a body, or let's say a member in between those different people who had different interests. I mean, manufacturer, promoter, rider, organizer, everyone has a different interest. And so the FIM was there as someone to take care that the rules that they wrote down are followed, and so all decisions that were taken in the past year, since we were an FIM championship, were taken by the FIM and based on their rules and regulations. So, no manufacturer, no matter who it was, had any say on any decisions taken by the FIM. I mean, they could protest against it.
Yeah.
And this is like in any other championship. You can, if you're unhappy with a decision taken or if a penalty that you got, you can protest against it. And if it's legit and if you have like evidence or yeah, then the decision gets reviewed, and either it's a new decision, or the decision stays the same.
I see. So basically, FIM was like the neutral party in the championship to kind of
Yeah.
make sure that
That's-
they were the decision makers, and then everyone else kind of had to fall under them. They were the ones to be
Yeah.
like
From
in
a
the middle,
sporting
I guess.
and tech and rule perspective, they were definitely the decision makers. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I see. And it's unfortunate that you guys were not able to secure your funding for, this year and to continue the championship. Just out of, curiosity, were you close to securing your funding? Were you able to get like a reasonable amount of the way to secure it, or was it just not really financially viable for you guys to be able to? I mean, obviously it wasn't, but I'm just curious, like, to what degree was it not really viable?
I mean, we had really good talks with new partners who were around the champ or were inside the industry, so to say, and we also had really good talks with partners from outside the industry. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a reasonable amount to do it. I mean, we had two different like target numbers that we wanted to reach. One where we said, okay, this is what we were happy with. What was already a decreased budget from last year, so we were already trying to get costs down, and yeah, and we had another number which was our absolute limit, where we said, okay, this is what we need, because you need a certain amount of people to run the championship. It's you need people to go there. You need those people. They need to earn something. Otherwise, you cannot. This is not a weekend job, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's a full-time job. Yeah. So you cannot do it for free, and everyone was stepping down to make it happen. But there is a point where you have to say, okay, as much as we want to make it happen, we can't take the risk, because if you have new partners on board, and they are investing in this series, and they are looking for, they have those images in mind from the past season, how it looked like, and what they got in terms of like coverage and events, and what you could do as a sponsor. And if you just don't have the budget to do that, or you just barely have it, then it's not how you want to work with a new partner, to be honest. And this is, if this partner stays then around for one season and is then heavily disappointed and pulls out, then you have the problem this October or this November, and you start all over again. So
Yeah.
this is what we definitely didn't want to happen. So, and this is also what we told all those partners, that we said, okay, it's not granted that it's gonna happen. This is what we wanna do, and we won't do it if we cannot guarantee you this and this and this and this and this. And they understood it, and yeah, I mean, everyone was decreasing its budget, and also the FIM was a huge help in this, in providing the funding, because they made a big step in our direction for 2025. But even that was
Just not enough.
to make it work.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. You were doing such a good job, and it was going so well, and then to have to take a step, was potentially so many steps back, rather than just kind of reevaluating and then moving forward stronger. I completely understand.
I think we had a pretty good 2024 season, and I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. And coming from that season, then it's even harder to not being able to provide that level. And this was the reason.
I
And
understand.
already going into the year knowing that you're running so tight on budget that every little expense could, end up in not being able to finish the year was it was way too much of a risk
Yeah,
for
I
us.
completely
So
understand.
the difference between making it and was just the gap was too big.
Yeah. And looking into like the future, like is there a possibility that WESS can return as either just as WESS, like a series again, or as a promoter again in the future?
I mean, I'm not sure at the moment what is going to happen with the company. I mean, as it was announced in December, WESS as a company is going in liquidation. So I think this company, so WESS, will end existing sooner or later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the team will stick around.
But
So
the
if you go
the
to hard
plan,
enduro races this year, I
yes.
mean which have been on the calendar,
Yeah.
you will most probably see me, you will see Eric, you will see Mike Skinner doing work because we continue working with the organizers.
Okay.
But if there's a way back as a promoter, this is currently unclear.
Not sure yet. Got it. So I'd like to move into a little bit with regards to like the riders, the teams, and like the races themselves. So obviously, since the news has come out, the biggest question that everyone is asking is, what races are actually still going to happen in 2025? Like, obviously, I've seen a lot of social media where races are still saying, yes, we're still continuing, but a lot of people are asking, like, which races, at least do we know at this point, are still going to continue into 2025 that people can still look forward to?
I mean, as far as I know today, all of them gonna happen. So all of those races are financially independent, so they're gonna happen. Unless there is, I don't know, something I don't know today. The only race that is definitely not happening is Serbia, so X-Ross, which
Yeah.
is we had to cancel even before we had to cancel the championship due to the political situation there. And yeah, but all the other races, as far as I know, they will go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
because I mean,
they are fully into their plannings and they opened registrations and everything, and yeah.
yeah, it's. I mean, as far as I understand, a lot of these races also were running before they fell under the
Yeah,
umbrella of the championship, so they kind of just continued.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for them, it's changing back to what they were before, like running under the FIM umbrella. Some of them continue working with us, some of them not. So yeah, this is. I mean, for pro riders and amateur riders, I don't think that their planned schedule will change a lot. It depends if they still want to go there or not.
Yes,
Yeah.
I see. So I'm speaking about like professional riders and I guess like also privateer riders that kind of obviously a lot of them planned their calendar and their year around obviously the championship, but obviously probably still going to go to a lot of those races. But I know that a lot of them relied, you could say, on the championship for exposure and for like sponsorships. Like, do you have any maybe advice for those riders or that like community? I mean, considering that they don't now get as much, I guess, exposure, and do you think that that's going to affect them?
I mean, I think it depends on their sponsorship contracts for sure. If they have, I don't know, a certain clause that certain bonuses might be linked to championship. So this is, I mean, can't give him any advice on that. I'm
Yeah, I guess
sorry
so.
that this then happened. But in terms of exposure, I mean, the two big ones, Erzberg and Romaniacs, they will for sure be covered by Red Bull as in the last years. About the other ones, I'm not sure to what extent Red Bull will continue featuring them, but I think it will be definitely more than just those two big races. So
Okay.
yeah, also it's getting back to no FIM rules. I mean, it opens up some possibilities for footage. So yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things kind of develop and like work out over the
Yeah, I
next
mean now
couple
it's
of months.
basically they can they
Have a
not
little
that
bit
they
more
can
freedom, I guess.
more, but they have more freedom, and yeah, I mean it's on them what they make out
What
of
they
it.
I see. And I wanted to ask a question about like traveling. I know that obviously traveling for the riders and their teams was quite a big expense, and I know that like when you kind of committed to like the calendar, there were like a lot of like international like races, and that obviously, as you said before, like it required a lot of traveling,
Yeah.
and the manufacturers would obviously give feedback on like maybe some traveling was too much. Was there any means to really like support that kind of traveling, or was it kind of really on the teams and the riders to kind of financially gather what they needed to support themselves for the championship?
I mean, yeah, traveling is a huge expense. Also in our budget as a promoter, getting everywhere. So this would so the 2025 season, if it would have happened, also meant like cutting costs there in terms of traveling. We were working on travel support, and all new races, like contracts which have been made afterwards or are valid for the future, or now are not, but would have been valid, they had a travel support in it.
Okay.
But to understand why it was the last years, how it was actually, was when we became an FIM championship, we as a promoter had to go to the races and ask them like, okay, do you want to be part and this and that, and we offer this. You get the FIM title. We bring Red Bull is doing the whole video and documentary about it, and yeah, so we had to ask the organizers to do that, and we had multi-year contracts with them, to have like some kind of sustainability in it.
Yeah.
Those contracts were running out, and like especially for overseas races, this would have changed, yeah, and even in 2025. So if we would have done this season, the overseas race would have been supported wherever
Okay.
whichever race it would have been.
Okay. I mean, obviously it's disappointing that it didn't happen, but I think that is a really good thing, to be honest. Like for me, I feel like that's actually a really good step forward to hear that, that which something that is such a big cost has been taken, into consideration, or at least was being taken into consideration for the future, I guess.
I mean, this was one of the requirements for new races which were outside of Europe.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you can imagine, getting 20 top riders there, including a mechanic, is a huge expense. It's a huge expense. I mean, it's way more than any other fees. And so yeah, for an organizer, this is something where he needs to find a sponsor for, or he needs to make this amount of money with tickets, amateurs, entries, whatever he's doing to finance this.
Yes, I see. Yeah, it's a big undertaking, especially for an organizer.
It's a big amount of money per race to get the pro paddock there. Yeah.
Yes. Moving into something that you focused on a lot this year, it was like the juniors and the women. So you had obviously the women's award as well as like the junior championship, and I think that those incentives were really great, and they gave a lot of like recognition to those groups. And obviously now that there's no championship, it kind of feels like that's kind of going to fall away a little bit. Like, you know, the progress that was made for juniors and women is kind of coming a little bit to a halt. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that those two things are not continuing, because we were focusing especially on juniors to have some sustainability in the sport, that we keep fresh talent coming, and how we work together with climbs, supporting them with the junior camp, having Paul Bolton as a mentor there. Like, this, I think, attracted new talent and brought in some new riders from a lot of different countries. Also, what we did with 24MX, the Women's Award, to bring some light there, to award the best performance of a woman taking part in any race. I think that were two great things to bring some light in, like, not on the pro stage, you know. Those top guys, they are always in the limelight, and all the cameras and everything is there, but to point out achievements from other very important people in the sport, this was the goal, and I think this worked pretty well. I mean, for women, I think the US is doing a really good job. Way more women are racing there. They have their own classes. I mean, they have enough women riders taking part there. I mean, it's like different than Europe, where you have like 2, 3, 4,
a couple,
maybe in like in the huge variety in the level they are riding.
Yes.
And this was also a reason why we saw this in at DKO and at Outliers, and we saw, okay, this is pretty cool that they can attract like those riders, that they can deliver a stage for them. And this is when we said, okay, we need to have something like this in Europe. I mean, Sandra Gomez is doing a phenomenal job bringing women like in the top 10 of hard enduro, in between the pros. And we wanted to do something more, like to encourage more also riders who just wanted to ride for fun or wanted to challenge, to go there and see, okay, if I finish in bronze and this is my first hard enduro race, I could get that award. You know, and this was the aim. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with those two things, but I hope whoever takes over continues with it.
I'm optimistic, and I'm hopeful that those two things will hopefully continue if, you know, someone does kind of take over the champion. Speaking about like taking over the championship, obviously FIM made a statement saying that they are trying to do what they can to allow the championship to continue this year and obviously into the future. Have WESS, or at least your team, kind of been in communication with FIM and, you know, to help them find a solution to how they can continue? Or is it kind of more of, okay, FIM is kind of stepping in now and they are going to try and find the solution kind of on their own, if that makes sense?
I mean, since we get the notice in December about our budget, we've been in constant talk with FIM, and we talked with them already, I think, a few days afterwards, and tried to figure out a way how we can continue and where they helped us. But how this works is, okay, if one promoter cannot continue due to whatever reason, the FIM is it's like a job offer. They say, okay, who wants to do the Hard Enduro World Championship? Then people can apply for it. This could be,
Okay.
I don't know, a company
Okay.
or anyone who thinks is capable of doing that. Then the FIM looks into that, is checking, do they have the capabilities, do they have the fundings, do they have the knowledge, what kind of do they want to do, and what are their goals. And if FIM then thinks, okay, this is a good solution to continue with that Hard Enduro World Championship, then they will announce a new promoter.
Okay.
So basically, with our announcement on the 28th, we said we as a promoter cannot do what the FIM is looking for.
You got it.
And yeah, so
Okay,
I think they're still looking for someone.
Okay. Yeah.
And
haven't made any announcements just yet. Yeah. I'm sure it might be a process, that's for sure. Actually, thank you so much for clearing that up, because I didn't really understand where we were at. Do you know what I mean? Like, I knew FIM was saying that, oh, well, they'll do what they can, but I didn't know what that meant, and that actually clarifies it a lot more. Like, I have a better understanding of, like, okay, this is where we are now. It's not obviously confirmed that the championship's not going to happen, but we're kind of just in a bit of a middle ground, you could say.
Yeah, exactly. So this is also something we could not cancel the championship. We could only cancel our part as being the promoter of the championship. So if the FIM decides, okay, I don't know, maybe in 4 weeks time or 5 weeks time, they say, okay, it's too close, the season is done, we are looking for someone for 26 to do it, then they cancel the 2025 championship.
Okay.
Maybe they continue searching for a longer period of time, and they announce someone later on that year, and something.
Maybe it's a slightly shorter championship, but adjusted.
Yeah, but this is up to them where they want to go with the sport.
Got it. And if there was another promoter who, I mean, I'm not sure how it would work. As you said, they kind of propose their own plan. But if there was another promoter, would your team, considering, the experience that you guys have had over the years, would your team be open to sharing, your knowledge and what you've learned and, like, where you've come from, kind of just to give them at least, like, a head start, if that makes sense?
They have if it's someone completely out of this, outside from the sport, I don't think that anyone would do that, because this might be quite, I don't think that the FIM would allow that, to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know, it is a company experienced in sport management and they feel comfortable with it, but yeah, I think they have to work with the race organizers and figure out what has to be done. I think all of the events which were in the calendar are on a really, really good level. They are well organized. They have a good structure. They are financially stable, and so I think any other experience, I mean, happy to talk about it.
Yeah. If with if someone's interested.
Someone is interested, yeah.
Yeah. I have basically one more question, and with regards to just like the fans, really, and those who love Hard Enduro, support Hard Enduro, want to see more of Hard Enduro. And I'm asking, but I don't know, I might know the answer already because of obviously our conversation, but the question was like, because at least your guys' involvement in the championship has kind of fallen away, does that mean that there is not going to be any more like content with regards to like your Instagram account? For example, the Hard Enduro socials. Will we still be able to see some content from smaller events or some other events?
I mean, speaking about our channels, I don't think that we will be able to post content in the foreseeable future about any events. What's going? I think the coverage will still be there. So there will still be
Okay.
those media
Okay.
channels like yours. You're going to events, then other
Yes.
channels like Enduro Live. All those bloggers, then the channels from the riders,
Correct.
who are
Yes.
uploading their content. Then
Yes.
there's so many
Correct.
bloggers out there sharing their content. Plus, Red Bull will do
True.
something. So I think there will
Okay.
be, if someone wants to follow Hard Enduro, he can
Content.
follow Hard Enduro. Maybe
Yes.
it will be a
Yes.
bit more spread, like you have to go here for that and to this account to get that
Yes.
stuff, and it will be not so
Yes.
concentrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there will be still enough content.
Got it. Well, that pretty much brings my questions to an end. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time once again to speak to me and just, answer my questions and just give that little bit more clarity on, just the situation.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and as I said, I'm happy to clear some things up which may not be as clear or may not have been as clear in the past, concerning how this whole structure works. But yeah, it was the same in hard enduro as in any other FIM sport, like Dorna and MotoGP. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And that pretty much brings our episode to an end.